Afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now. Thank you for joining us for another Saturday event. I see a couple familiar faces. Let's see. Hey, Apollo, how are you? How are you doing today?
Yo, I'm doing magnificent.
Good.
Vibing, made some music.
Nice. I love that. We love a productive day. How about you, Juke? How are you? Can you unmute right now? Or are you busy? I think she's busy. Let's see. See who else is in the room. Kiana Sky, how are you? How are you doing?
Hello, how are y'all?
Good. Let's see. Who else is in the room? Let's see. Free World Mac, how are you? Can you unmute and introduce yourself to everyone today? All right. Jen Martinez, how are you doing? You were in our event yesterday and you dropped so many important things in the chat. How are you doing today? Hi. I'm sorry. Okay, good. Thank you all for joining us for our event. I think we're going to introduce a couple more people. Poem, can you unmute yourself and talk about who you are and what brought you here today? Hey, Justin, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
Good. How are you doing today?
I ain't gonna lie, I'm tired. It was a long week, and the irony of this particular event coincides with why it was a long week. So it's all good, but I'm always glad to be here.
Good. We're glad to have you also. Wendy Silva, how are you? Can you tell us who you are and what brought you here today?
Hi, yes, I am a freelance social media manager, and I've been coming to events for a little bit more than a year, to Finesse Media events, and I'm glad to be back. And hello, everyone. Hello, Finesse Media staff.
Hey, we're so happy to have you here.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming. All right. All right, so I think we're going to get started. Hi, everybody in the room. Thank you again for being here on another Saturday event. Now that we've introduced some of the audience, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sage, and I'm just going to give a visual description. I'm a Black woman, have a ponytail, I have glasses, and I have a white collared shirt on. Here at Finesse Media, I am focused on artist development and brand partnerships, and I'm also an artist manager. Before I introduce my amazing panelists today, I want to give you guys a rundown of the event. So we're going to start with a conversation with our panelists. Then we're going to hop into an audience Q&A where you guys can get any questions you have answered. Then we're going to go right into a community engagement session, which is usually my favorite part. So we're going to be put in random breakout rooms where we can network and connect with everybody in the community. And before I move on, I also want to remind you all that we're doing a cash prize giveaway. So if you are engaged, if you have your cameras on, and if you stay for the entire event, you will be entered into a raffle for $200 cash prize. So make sure you're focused and you got your pen and paper ready to go, and you're going to take some notes. So again, thanking you. I just want to thank you all for being here to participate in our event. It's so important to have conversations about accessibility, and it's such an overlooked topic. So I'm excited that I get to host this conversation and spotlight these amazing industry professionals, and we can have a progressive conversation about accessibility. One way of making our industry more inclusive and making it more accessible, whether that's making the live events more accessible, the fan engagement projects more accessible, or just making it a more comfortable space for any aspiring artists or industry professionals with a disability. Whether you're participating as a fan, a creative, or an artist, you should be able to participate in the space fully without any limitations. In a time where everyone is striving to be inclusive, many festivals, live show settings, and venues don't consider accessibility in the planning process. Our three panelists are directly affected by these decisions and are here to talk about their journeys and initiatives to raise awareness. Without further ado, let's get right into introducing our panelists for today. I've been itching to talk to them all week. First, I would like to introduce Cassie Wilson. Cassie is the founder of Half Access. Half Access is a nonprofit organization dedicated to making live music accessible. Their database provides accessibility info on any and all venues to help prepare disabled folks on what to expect before arriving at a live show. Through Half Access, Cassie also partners with venues to talk about ways of improving accessibility in their spaces. Hi, Cassie, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Of course, I'm excited to have you here too. All right, and next up, we have DJ and concept producer Sabeerah Najee. Sabeerah has DJed for legendary EDM producer Mr. Carmack on his tour and recently DJed Coachella's Mojave stage. She's also worked with several organizations that advocate for accessibility, such as National Alliance of Melanin Disabled Advocates and All of Me. In addition to all of that, she's also the content producer for Goldenvoice's accessibility initiative, Accessible Plus, just to name a few things. Hi, Sabeerah, how are you?
How you doing? How you doing? Thank y'all for having me. I'm super duper excited. I'm so hyped right now.
I'm so excited to have you on too. All right, and last, but certainly not least, we welcome back Jay, better known as Mini Producer, back to our community. Mini Producer is an Atlanta-based producer who started his production career at the age of 14. Throughout his career, he's worked with major and independent recording artists such as Boldy James, DJ Luke Nasty, and Young LA, and so many more. He's worked with brands like Coca-Cola, Snapchat, and recently just got a Corona placement. He's also been accepted into Timbaland's Beat Club. In addition to music, he's a content creator and is working towards an acting career. If I sat here and listed his entire resume, we'd be here all day. So hi, Jay. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and be a part of the conversation.
Of course. Thank you all for being here again. So now that I've introduced you all, I just want to hop into our first question. So can you guys talk to us about your journey in the industry? What was the defining moment in your life that, made you know that you wanted a career in music? And Cassie, we can start with you.
Yeah, so when I was like 14, 15, I got super involved in like online fandoms and just fell in love with music. And then through that started meeting other specifically One Direction fans in my area. And some of them were musicians themselves. And so through that, I discovered our local music scene here in Portland and just started going to local shows all the time. And with the same passion that I had for these huge artists, like so badly, like wanted to give that same love and support to these upcoming artists. And like my kind of moment was being like, I want them to like be seen and heard by as many people as like these huge artists are. And like, I just want to do anything I can to support them on their journeys. And so I was like, it'd be so cool to like get to work in the music industry and get to support these artists right here in my local music scene. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like the fan to executive or music industry professional pipeline is very common. It's definitely how I came into it also. Sabeerah, how about you?
Same, definitely that fan to professional pipeline. But I think for me, like I knew I always wanted to be in the industry ever since I was in elementary school, to be honest. Like literally, I knew I was gonna be there. I just didn't know what that looked like or how. Right. So it was kind of a few defining moments, but it could have either been, I guess, my first recital like in elementary school to like all the way to DJing the Selection Experience at the Shrine in LA. And just kind of realizing that I did go from that fan to like artist pipeline. I think that's what was the main thing for sure. Right. For sure. Just being able to DJ for a bunch of people was just like, especially like a huge venue like that. It was fun. So Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds, you guys are so cool. I'm like so honored to be talking to all of you. Jay, how about you? Can you talk to us about your journey?
So for me, like I used to take piano lessons as a kid, and also voice lessons. So I always really liked doing music. I had like a family member that had software. I think it was Logic on Mac, and I thought it was really cool. And messed around with making beats and stuff. But I never really thought of it being a career like that at the time. But when I got into high school, I was like, wait a second, this could be something cool, and so I started making beats. I remember the first time like anyone really heard my beats was I had my beat played on like our morning show my senior year of high school. And that's when I knew like, okay, like I could really, keep doing this. And then once I got to college, I always say that everyone's a rapper at least one time. So it was good to like connect with different artists on campus, and they would come record in my dorm room because I had like studio equipment, and not a lot of college students necessarily had studio equipment in their dorm room. So it was definitely a plus, and I've been able to, do it ever since, and I've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. That actually leads right into my next question. Can you guys talk about your like aha moment where you were like, this is the right space for me. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is my purpose. Yeah, anybody can jump in.
I'll go. I think my aha moment was when I was contacted by Goldenvoice to do Accessible Plus, or like help further develop what it is and what it was. I think it's funny because I came with the intention like, oh, they're calling me back to DJ something again. And then it was like this. And then that was like, okay, now I knew. Like once I realized like I was given the opportunity to like do something cool that's even bigger than like DJing, that's bigger than like, you know what I mean, than myself, or just
Right.
and doing something for the whole community. I think that's what got me for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Cassie, how about you?
I think there's been a couple moments since starting Half Access, particularly whenever we table shows, and someone comes up and is like, I knew that I could come to the show tonight because the venue was on your website and I knew it was accessible, or I knew what to expect. Like that just like it's so validating to just like know that what we're doing is like having a tangible effect on people's lives. Because I mean, for me, when I started going to shows, like the most stressful thing was not knowing what to expect at a venue the first time I went.
Right.
And so like I just want fellow music fans to be able to just be excited and look forward to going to shows and not have to stress about like if it'll actually be accessible to them and if they'll actually have a good experience. And so like to know that it is getting more disabled folks out to shows, yeah, extremely, just I don't know, just makes me so grateful to like have ended up where I am.
Yeah, and your impact is absolutely real. We had so many people in our last event yesterday that were so excited for you today to be on here. So thank you again for agreeing this. And yeah, we've all, in my research, I've felt your impact as well. So thank you. Jay, how about you?
I would say for me, I guess my first aha moment was I wanted to go to the Art Institute of Atlanta, but it's also a lot of money, so I didn't end up going. But I wanted to go, and they had a contest where you could submit beats to get a scholarship, and I got like second place, and it was a $10,000 scholarship, and I was like, oh man, I might not be half bad at this, you know what I mean? Like, and so that was the first one, and then I guess my second one that let me know I may be okay is I won a contest for Patchwork Studio, um, and I got to do an interview with them and stuff like that, and I got to get studio time, but the place is not all that accessible, which is ironic. So I didn't really get to take advantage of that, but it is what it is. So those are like two moments where I said, okay, I definitely, it's not just me who thinks like I could do something. Like other people who didn't know who I was, didn't know what I looked like at all, just heard what I created. That was
Right.
like, okay, like I can make something happen.
Right. And I feel like we all have those moments where we're doing something and we might not realize the impact that we have or what we're doing and how many people it affects. But when we do realize it, it truly is the most fulfilling thing. So, yeah. So, my next question is for Cassie. Cassie, can you talk about your work with venues and how you talk to them about making their space more accessible? Are there reoccurring issues that you see, or is it kind of like a range of issues? You go to a venue and they are pretty accessible, they could have a couple things to fix, or are they kind of, not accessible at all?
Yeah, so it really is a very wide spectrum of accessibility, because I find that really more than any other type of building, venues are all so individually unique in how they're set up, that like with where the stage is placed and like how much room is around the stage and like if there's stairs. And I think that the most common thing that I've found is that a lot of venues just haven't actually thought about how accessible they are, or they just kind of, they either it just hasn't like personally come across for them, and so they haven't had to think about it more, or they just assume that it's accessible. I find that a lot of people assume everything's accessible just because the Americans with Disabilities Act exists. And so it's kind of a lot of just like making people aware that they even need to think about it. And then they kind of go, oh, we have a lot of work to do. And it's like, that's kind of where the name of half access comes from, is that like a lot of venues are literally half accessible. Like you can maybe get in the door, but once you're in, you can't like be somewhere that you can be safe and able to see the show. So, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of work to do. I've also found it's pretty interesting, we don't have a lot of them here in Portland, but some of the venues that are owned by like bigger companies in the music industry, like Live Nation and stuff, a lot of them will have similar problems across all of their venues, even if the buildings themselves are unique, just because they have similar processes in place. And so like I've seen and heard from a lot of people that they'll prioritize premium seating over accessible seating. Like if you pay, you can sit in this spot with a great view. Oh, but we have a horrible accessible seating area. So, so there's definitely some recurring issues that that come up across a lot of venues. But I've found though that like most venues, once you start talking to them, they're like super down to talk about how to make things better. They just have to have that moment of realization first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it more when you do bring those issues up to them, do you get, I mean, you shouldn't get pushback at all, but do you get people who are kind of reluctant to make those changes, or just reluctant to do the work to make those changes?
It's been quite a journey over the past few years with this, because pre-COVID, I was doing a bunch of like just basically cold emailing venues to be like, hey, like we'd love to like gather info on your venue and stuff, and just not getting responses. And so most of the time that we actually get to have a conversation with venues, it's them reaching out to us, because otherwise, I don't know if it's just that they literally don't have the staff for it. Because I find that the bigger the venue, the more likely they already have accessibility figured out, because they have the money and the resources for it. But it's, yeah, figuring out a way to make it happen with smaller venues is still a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. I feel like the first step in that is just acknowledging that there is work to be done. So yeah. Sabeerah, can you talk to us about your initiative with Goldenvoice, and like what does your part as a concept producer, what does that look like?
Okay. Yeah. So Accessible Plus is an initiative that's focused primarily on BIPOC folks with disabilities to essentially create a pathway to the live entertainment industry and hopefully eventually the music industry. The way we do that is we invite a total, well, this year we invited a total of 20 participants, 10 each weekend, out to Coachella, free of charge. Provided them with accessible camping. And I mean, like, when I say accessible camping, like actually accessible camping, because that's a whole nother thing that I could get into later, but for real. But yeah, so outside of that, we wanted to give our participants that full experience, that beyond VIP experience, so folks can understand what it's like, not just as a fan, but what those operations look like behind the scenes.
Right.
While providing like job shadowing opportunities, industry panels, Goldenvoice panels with different higher ups in the company, explaining what they do there. The list goes on, really, but yeah, our main goal is for it to be equitable for our community. You know what I mean? So we felt like if we can provide something like this, then folks would have multiple opportunities to either work behind while simultaneously helping out their own career and like seeing themselves on that same stages that they're watching, like Harry Styles or something like that.
Exactly.
And my role was essentially going from consultant, because the skeleton didn't always look like this. So I was basically the consultant to say, like, to kind of bring up these different issues, what those things look like. And then we brought on a full team. So it's myself, my friend Carrie Gray, another disabled advocate who who's the founder of NAMED, NAMD. And we brought her along. Another friend of mine, his name's Kieran Sampson. He works under a friend of mine named Austin Whitney, who he is actually the director of ADA over at Goldenvoice. And he's really dope too. When I say he goes hard, he does. He's also in a wheelchair himself, and like he goes through like the different spaces in the venue and like make sure everything is accessible, from like the stage to the installations that are, or the partnership, setups that they have.
Right.
But yeah. Once we all kind of got together, we all just fleshed it out. But my role in particular was just kind of figuring out how to, take this skeleton and like make sure this is not only accessible but equitable. It's and when I say accessible, I mean it in a couple of ways, from physically accessible to like financially, like are people going to even be able to afford to even get out here?
Yeah.
So basically just kind of bringing out those issues and just fleshing the concept a bit more.
Yeah, and I love that you said that accessibility has multiple definitions. It's not just physically accessible, but just accessible overall in terms of, giving everybody opportunities. And I love the initiative of Goldenvoice. I'm a fan of them for sure. And yeah, so Jay, I want to move on to you. You're currently pursuing a career in music and also acting. Can you talk about both of those industries and how they differ with accessibility? Is there a difference with those industries and accessibility? Is one more accessible than the other? You know what I mean? Like, give us a little insight on what that looks like.
So something for me that I struggle with is like transportation, and accessible transportation, especially here in Georgia, is so trash. Like, it's horrible. It's either extremely expensive, like, and I'm talking about just to go to Atlanta, it could, cost like $200, and a lot of, speaking of financial accessibility, a lot of people talk about in the disability community, like $200 is a lot. I mean, just to be paying just to go somewhere. And depending on your financial situation, if you're on SSI, it's a whole can of worms there. And so I definitely struggle with even going to the studio, like because I'm not gonna pay $200 to go to a studio when I have to pay for the studio time on top of that, you know.
Exactly.
And so and then at times like the studios aren't even accessible. I still remember like I had to be carried into a studio, and that was like one of the more like I guess demeaning moments I've had, you know. And
Yeah.
just because like you want to be seen and respected by people that are in your industry, and when you're getting carried into the studio, and I'm short, so I look like a child to some people, and so it's just a lot of things in your mind. It's hard to like focus on what you're actually there for, because
Mhm.
you just feel like it takes away from, you know, being respected. And so I definitely feel like as far as the music industry, I've had to definitely fight for one, just being respected in the industry, because
Right.
people are not used to, I think sometimes even seeing disabled people actually just living life and doing what they want to do, and not just being disabled and like going to doctor's appointments. Like that's not all we do. You know, we actually have things that we, you know, like to do. And so I remember I was running Facebook ads, and all of my Facebook ad accounts have gotten shut down because I was getting bullied so much that people were probably like reporting my posts.
Mhm.
And so I can't run Facebook ads, and that was a big part of like my business. And you know, that was a struggle. So like there's different things that are affected even by just looking like I do, even though I'm just doing me. Like I
Right.
think society and the world is still not like, disabled people are going to exist no matter if people like it or not. Like we're here, you know, we're not going anywhere. And so as far as the music industry, there's a lot of things when it comes to accessibility that could be worked on. Studios, people's perception of disabled people. A lot of people have been like, oh, I didn't expect your beats to sound like, I'm like, I don't know what you expected them to sound like, but I mean,
Right.
you know. And then as far as the acting space, again, goes back to, you know, I did a music video, and they were actually looking for someone disabled. And then they gave me the date, and then I was like, okay, cool. Like I had to get a ride, you know, whatever. And then they were like, oh, it's gonna rain, so we got to move it to tomorrow. I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to do it if, you know, it's not today. Well, they really needed someone disabled, so they were like, we'll just make it work, and we'll, you know. So I got to go. But like those are the types of things that like it's sometimes not embarrassing, but like a little hard when you have to have those conversations of being like, oh, well, now I can't do it. And then I feel
Mhm.
like someone's looking at me because I'm like, oh, I can't get a ride here. And like now I don't know if that opportunity is just gone. And so,
Right.
and even in the acting space, like I use backstage primarily right now. And a lot of times, like they'll be like, you got to get a COVID test today. And I'm like, I can't get a ride to get a COVID test today and like do all these requirements, you know, that are like, you know, that are needed to be there and ASAP. And I just wish even in both industries, like there was more of a thought about disabled people, because like
Mhm.
a lot of the things that they're looking for is just, it's a lot, you know, to do. So yeah, I mean, both industries have a lot of work as far as that. And of course it's situational, you know, depending on people's situations, but at least for
Right.
me, that's how I've been affected. You know, and you know, the last thing I guess I want to say is like, thankfully for me, I mean, I still have my parents around, so they are a big part of being able to take me places when I do need to go somewhere. But I know that that's not always the case for other people with disabilities. So like there just needs to be something that happens on a wide scale so that everyone can participate and be able to be, you know, do what they want to do and have the careers that, you know, they want to have.
Exactly. Yeah, there should be no limitation on anybody's aspirations, no matter, you know, what they have going on. It should be, and it should be a first thought, basically. It should be included in the planning process. And I'm glad you gave us insight on what can be changed, because I feel like in this room full of, you know, industry professionals, we have a lot of things that we're going to do to make the change ourselves. And I feel like this conversation is definitely a first step for that. So thank you, Jay, for sharing that. I really appreciated that. Yeah, so back to our questions. I just want to basically ask some advice as an ally. What steps or what questions should or our community be asking for the need for accessibility, whether that's when we're planning a show, whether that's we're going somewhere? What questions should we be asking? Anybody can jump in at any point. You can go ahead, Sabeerah.
Got you, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got a few actually. I think one of the first ones obviously is like, okay, I'm doing this event. How can I include the disabled community as a whole?
Yeah.
So my friend and my manager, her name's Chantel Diaz. She introduced me to inclusion writers. I didn't know this was like a thing, but it's more popular right now in the film industry, but it's moving on to the music industry. And like inclusion writers are basically, you know, if you're an artist or, you know, you're working on a production for something, you have like, you can say like, oh, I want, you know, these folks to be hired, these folks to be hired, these folks. So I think when it comes to our community, I think that's extremely important. You know, so that way, you know, you do have our perspective on things. So, you know, basically not only just, you know, have us show up to the show as a fan, but like employ us, like for real. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like make sure we're on production. Exactly. You know, so we can be like, okay, this isn't level, this stage doesn't even have a ramp. Like, what's up with this over here? You know what I mean? Like, have us involved in the entire process. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. So yeah, one thing is just, you know, how can I include? But when I say include, like, do it wholeheartedly, you know? Don't just kind of, for lack of a better term, half-ass it, you know? So yeah. That's one. Thank you for teaching me about inclusion writers. I did not know that was a thing, but definitely we'll look into that more. Yeah, I'm writing this down too. I'm like keeping all of this mentally. Cassie, how about you? What's a question or questions that we should be asking?
Yeah, I mean, Sabeerah really got to like the root of it. It's like, yes, include us in the whole process, like all parts of it. I think for me, like the one question I always tell people to ask is literally just in any space you're in any conversation you're in, especially if disabled people aren't present. First of all, like being like, who's in the room and like who's not in the room right now. But then just like being like, is this accessible? And it's like, if you don't know the answer to that, then like work on that. I think too, like the way that the Have Access database has grown the most has actually been working directly with artists who, when they're advancing their tours, they ask like specific accessibility questions while they're like asking about other stuff they already need to ask about. And then they just forward that info on to us. We upload it to our database. And then when they announce their tour, they can be like, all of the info is on the Have Access website. And so that's really great for like all shows moving forward, like other artists are doing. And also makes it great for anyone attending that tour who can know that for sure that they can find information. And yeah, I think those are the main things. But I think just like generally working on creating more of a culture of accessibility as opposed to it just being a checkbox.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And Jay, yeah, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of both of y'all, I mean, I think even when thinking about including us, also making sure that it is genuine, because I know, like, at least for me, like when I was working like a 9 to 5, I knew I was the diversity token. And there's nothing like feeling like I know why I'm here, because they want to be like, see, there's the disabled guy, like we're good. I'm the only one in there, and like everyone at my job knows I'm a diversity token. Like that's a horrible feeling. So when you do include us, like make sure you actually want to include us, not just so you can be like, oh yeah, look, we got disabled people.
Right.
We're inclusive, because that's not really inclusivity. That's just you trying to fulfill your own ego needs. And like I could say that most disabled people don't want to be a diversity token. Like we just want to be included because we're human beings and we should be able to be present in certain spaces. So I think that that's really important for any organizations or looking at inclusivity, like really making sure that you're including because you really want to, and making sure that when you do include us, that you have everything set up in a way that it's going to benefit. Like, don't have me get there and there's no ramp, or like I get there and you're like, oh, sorry, there's stairs where you were gonna go, but the elevator never works here, and so I hope it works out for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just make sure. And also another thing I would say is like, don't assume that disabled people are unable to do certain things because of your own perceived ideas about disabled people.
Yes.
Because disabled people, I can speak for us in here, we figure stuff out. Like I've had to think about, figure things out in situations I never thought I had to figure out, a way to make stuff happen. And, not just saying like, oh, they're not going to be able to do it and then writing us off. I know that happens a lot, even just in the job market and, trying to find jobs. So, in these industries, like just making sure to really include us and know that we have the skill sets, we can do it, you know what I mean? And we might need some accommodations, but once you make it happen for a lot of us, we're gonna go above and beyond and crush it. So that's what I would say is something to think about.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head right there when you talked about not assuming, just ask. I'm sure that's the best first step. Just ask if they need help first before assuming. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you, Jay. All right, so I have a couple more questions before we wrap this up. I want to hear, what's one piece of advice all of you would give to your past selves, sitting in the positions that you are right now? You all have accomplished so many amazing things. What's something that you would say to your past self? Jay, you can start.
You said a piece of advice I would give to my past self.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I answer the question. Oh man, that's a good one. I guess the piece I would give to myself is to not be ashamed of being disabled. I think like in my life, I've come a long way in being accepting of my disability, especially my physical one. I just recently got diagnosed with autism. So like I've had to kind of be like, man, I feel like I have a grab bag of disabilities that I have to like pick from. And so I think just telling myself that like it's okay to be disabled and I can still accomplish what I want to. Because I know for myself at least, there have been a lot of times where I felt like a burden by being a disabled person, because I know I do need a lot of help in just a lot of areas. So that's definitely been a struggle, and sometimes still is a struggle, but I've definitely come a long way in that aspect. But yeah, I would tell myself to just like be proud of being disabled, and like, I'm gonna be all right.
You absolutely will be. You are right. You're crushing it. Did you hear all of the things that I listed earlier when I introduced you? Like,
thank you so
all
much.
of those amazing things have been like, you're on the path to greatness. I'm so excited to follow your journey.
Thank you.
You guys are all doing it. Cassie, you can go next.
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking about is I was 18 when I started Half Access, and I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, like a non-existent expectation. Like I put way more pressure on myself than anyone else had on me. to just always be doing the most all of the time. And I think that I wish I had like asked for help and support more. I wish that we had started the Have Access volunteer program sooner. But yeah, I mean, I think just like, I don't know, just telling myself to, I don't know, I guess go with the flow more and like accept that like we really are a grassroots, completely volunteer organization. And a lot of the times we're like in contact with people who are like being paid to do this type of work and we're not. And so if they're expecting an email back in 24 hours while we're all like working jobs and like trying to survive, it's like just like kind of like relieving myself of that pressure and just being like, it is okay to just do your best, but also you have to take care of yourself or you're gonna burn out.
Absolutely. I feel like that's a lesson I definitely have to learn. All of us have to learn is when to chill out, when to take a break, take a breath. I'm glad you said that. Sabeerah, go right ahead.
I'd probably say trust the process. You know, I think, you know, like Cassie said, of like just feeling that pressure. And then, you know, also like Jay said about like just kind of accepting your own disability. That definitely kind of took me off course a couple times, but I would definitely say trust the process for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for sharing. I've absolutely loved hearing from all of you. I was so excited to host this event, and I feel like all of you dropped so many important things that we all will keep in mind moving forward. So again, thank you. We're going to actually go right into our Q&A session for the audience. So if you do have a question for Cassie, Sabeerah, or Jay, please raise your hand and I will call on you. All right. The first hand I see raised is Justin. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question.
What's up, y'all? Wow, Finesse Media never fails finding dope people in all spaces. I'm thoroughly enjoying everything you guys said, so thank you. Quick note, I have just recently found out that I've had some hidden disabilities. And I think even early on, I was like, I ain't got no disability. Like, you know, I can walk, I can do this, I can do that. And then you kind of really take it in. So to the point Jay just made recently, it's like, wow, accepting that more is so true. But my question to you all is, give me your experience and your major milestones that you guys are doing and killing. Hold on, I lost my spot. Where do you see yourself and your business maybe in like the next year to 3 years? And what do you think is the current challenge now for you? And
anyone can jump in. Yeah. Cassie, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that right now we're really working to build to a place where, because when Have Access started, the whole board was based in Portland, and so we've already started branching out to other states because our database is national and international. And so I'm really excited to build our volunteer base up and build our board up to have people all over the country and have accessibility leads in every state or every major city, to be able to really start building relationships on the ground with venues to get them to like start actually making changes to their spaces to become more accessible.
Amazing. Sabeerah?
There we go. Sorry. That's a great question. Where we see ourselves, I would say doing Accessible Plus at every, like, hopefully not just GV, but mostly just GV, but every single GV festival, major show, all of that. I want to see, you know, us running these programs as much as we can through different festivals just to give people more and more experience. I want to expand the team for sure, because it's myself and, like I said, Carrie Gray, who's also disabled as well. So I mean, that representation is fire, but like one of our main goals is to just have like a team of folks, from allies to like folks in our community, and we're all just kind of getting together to expand this. I think in a few years, definitely just kind of like having our own department up at GV, just to, make sure folks are in and secure and are loving what they do, as well as I think too, it'd be cool to, help with like artist development, help like facilitate getting artists on stage for sure.
Yeah.
Like venues to festivals. That would be a really awesome pipeline for us to do. And we want to do that so bad. We're just working on the bandwidth right now, but yeah, for sure. Those are the main things. Thank you for that question, by the way. That was dope.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I try.
Go right ahead, Jay.
One, thank you for that question, because that's a really good question. Like everyone's been saying. So for myself, I definitely see myself just working with more independent artists. I recently like changed my pricing on my beats, because I realized I wanted to make it more accessible to artists to use, and because I thought about my own self and how I have like some limitations on things, especially financial access. And I know a lot of artists struggle with that as well. So I realized I wanted to make a stamp and kind of take a firm stance in separating myself, which has been really nice, just getting feedback from artists. And so, and then also I would say just getting more into the acting space. I'd love to be on some television shows and like really get that representation going. But a big thing for me as of recent is my mentor. He and I actually, we had the same condition, and he passed away on the first day of this year. And so since his death, it's actually really motivated me more to like do what I want to do, because like he was the person that I could see, like, you look like me, you've been successful in what you do, like it's encouraged me. So I know whatever I do, I just want to keep building. And I guess as far as some struggles or like obstacles, again, biggest thing has been like transportation for me, because it just affects a lot of things, like getting into the studio. And because everyone says network, but no one really thinks about like how are you going to get there to network. Because networking online is cool, but there is a point where it is good to be able to meet people in person. So I really struggle with that. But even with that obstacle, I am grateful for people that I know in my circle, like A&Rs. I know Kiana's in here. She's like helped me a lot with being able to send beats out to artists that she meets. So I always tell people that sometimes they're my legs or like, my feet for me, because I can't go to certain places. So even with those obstacles, I still try to find ways to like make things happen, even if it's a little bit slower than maybe someone else's journey. But at the same time, I just recognize that it's my journey and that everyone's journey is going to look different. So, I just remind myself that. And then I guess the last thing would be like financially is a little bit of a struggle, because like I said, just if you're on SSI or anything like that, I won't go too deep into it because they might be watching. But like if you're on SSI, like that's also a struggle, because people seem to think that you get a lot of money on SSI, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. There is a lot of limitations on that, and that's just a whole nother thing. But yeah, so that's also a struggle. But like I said, I'm just making things happen and situating things. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. More than enough. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Justin. Next person is Kit Kat.
Everyone, thank you, Cassie, Jay, Sabeerah. You all are so inspiring, and I know it's always great to have these conversations that are real and leave you inspired. I mean, Jay, you started touching on this just a second ago, but obviously you've done incredible things, right? Like your resumes are just through the roof. And so as you've been building up, what is your why? Like we talked about where you started and why you got started, but what's helped you to continue pushing forward?
I think for me, culture shift. Like I want to shift the culture. And it's cool because like so does my circle, you know.
Right. Yeah.
To touch on like, you know, what Jake been saying, like hell, transportation's a huge issue for me, even in LA. But like even with accessible transportation, like you got to deal with like so much stuff else, like on top of that, that comes with just having accessible transportation. And then, you know, with Social Security. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to like shift society for sure. And then also the importance of representation for sure. Because I think in order to do that shift, you have to have representation. But then also I don't have any examples. So it like, I think, you know, us being example, like everybody in this room being those examples for like our younger selves and just like the generation after us, I think that's extremely important because I'm kind of a mess around and find out person, like watch me do this. I can, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think, you know, just kind of being that for a whole nother generation that's just about to like go crazy with it and like, you know, really help shift the culture. I think that's important. That's the why for me.
and I can say, I know I had friends at Coachella that were like, thank you for making that happen. I wouldn't have been able to access it if it weren't for you. So it's happening. Cassie, I'd love to hear your why as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it just always comes back to like everyone deserves to be able to enjoy live music. Like, I think that like a lot of people talk about going to shows to briefly like escape from everything else going on and just enjoy music for a couple hours. And for me, it's the place where I go and am reminded of all the ways the world is inaccessible to me. And it shouldn't be like that. Like the moment that made me want to start Half Access was when there was like there's an artist on stage saying like everyone is welcome here, you know, regardless of whatever, and I'm just like sitting in the back unable to see, and I'm like but we're not. And so yeah, so I think for me it just always comes back to like I just don't want anyone to ever have to experience the things I went through just trying to go enjoy my favorite artists with my friends. Like you should just we need more fun in life.
Yeah.
And I just it shouldn't be just another reminder of how much work there is to do in making the world a better place.
And Jay, I don't know if you wanted to add more. I mean, you just talked about some of it, but
Yeah, no, I would say that like for me, it's just even if I get to impact like one person, like that'll make my day, you know, because I didn't realize how much of an impact I could really have until I just started hearing from other people and hearing from other disabled people specifically, which has really made me even more proud and just push me to like keep going on the days that I may not feel like I really want to. And you know, I'm just really grateful for that impact because like disability representation has become such an important thing for me. That I would have, I guess, never thought that it would become such a big thing. I mean, I had a lot of internalized ableism, and so I've had to unlearn a lot of things throughout my journey. So, you know, now I'm just really big on representation and talking more about disability and you know, just educating people and letting them know what's going on in relation to me and other disabled people as well.
Well, thank you all for sharing, and again, thank you for just inspiring this entire room. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Kika, for your question. I'm going to take 2 more questions. We are running a little low on time. Apollo, you can ask your question.
So my question is, well, let me start with some context. So I'm throwing a show at a release party for a new album I'm working on. And I wanted to ask, like, in what ways might I make it comfortable for people that are looking for more accessibility? Like in my head, I think it's like, oh, find a friend that struggles with that. Part of the thinking, but like, what else advice would you recommend?
Yeah, Cassie, you can start with that.
Yeah, so I think like you said, like bringing a friend, that's like a good one. I think too, like just making sure that in any promotions of the show that you're always including somewhere that either that they can find the accessibility information, or if it says it like directly on the flyer, that's always cool too, because I think that it's just like another barrier removed. It's not them having to go seek out that info on their own. Yeah, I don't know. It always really comes back to just that like information, because since everyone's accessibility needs are so different, it's like it allows them to make that choice for themselves. I think too, another big thing is like posting warnings about lighting, and if you know in advance like what the lighting at the show is going to be like, and if there's going to be strobes or stuff like that, like being able to like also post stuff like that when you're advertising the show is important. So yeah.
Sabeerah, can we hear from you next?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely having a friend there. For sure. Pretty much everything that Cassie said. That's extremely important, because I think for me, when I go to shows, I need to know everything. From whether it's accessible, like even like lights and stuff like that. Like that also determines like how many friends I bring, or you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. Will I need assistance? Are the restrooms accessible? Especially that. Those are some things to definitely look for. Yeah, I think just involving the community within the process of setting up your album release, I think that'll be extremely important when it comes to the whole production side.
Yeah, thank you, Sabeerah. Jay, do you have anything else to add?
Yes. First off, I just want to say, Apollo, like, one, I want to say give yourself a little grace too, because there might be some things that just aren't accessible for everyone, like everyone's mentioned. So don't beat yourself up if someone's like, oh man, it's like sometimes you're just not going to be able to address everything. But like main points also, I would look at like the location that you're choosing. Is it a location that if someone has to get transportation to go to the venue, is it going to be easy to get dropped off, or are they going to have to like get dropped off somewhere on the other side of the world? And maybe if they're in a chair and they have to drive down, like I've had to do that a lot of times as well. So making sure your location, and this might be a little more, but even seeing if there are accessible transportation services in the area that you're looking at, just know if you were going to invite people, would they be able to come, or would they have to rely on someone else to get there? Giving an advance notice of when the event is. Don't say 2 days before, because again, like I said, most transportation services, you don't get to schedule 24 hours in advance. It sometimes, I know for here in Georgia, we have one for the main service, it takes a week to schedule something, and it doesn't go on weekends. So you can't go to, most transportation services don't take you to places on the weekends, and it's sometimes more. So it is a lot of things to think about. So really just doing that work beforehand, because there are a lot of things. And especially with the lights, like I have autism. That would definitely freak me out if there's a lot of like flashing lights. That's why I don't like Christmas light displays. Anyway, but just thinking of those things. But again, like we've all been saying, including other people that you may know, that can give you some insight and seeing how to, maybe make what you're trying to do for the release party more accessible. Because I have been to a release party before and it was a lot. So, just thinking of those things. But like I said at the beginning, give yourself some grace because you might miss some things. But at least if you're trying to do the work to like make it as accessible as possible, like that's the biggest thing.
What were the things that were a lot for you at that release party?
Oh man, well, one, I couldn't take my power chair, which already was like sucked because my power chair is very big in regards to like independence. So I had to depend on someone to take me to the bathroom. Like I don't know these people, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, you got to do it. Just it is what it is, I guess. Like, I mean, so that's another thing. Is like if like I know, like I said for myself, like because I do use a power chair, having to go in a manual chair is very limiting for me because then I have to depend on people and trust that people are going to be able to take me. And if there's alcohol involved, and then now people are sipping and they're tipsy, and now I got to depend on someone to carry me and not trip over something. So it's just a lot of things that I have to like consider personally, and I'm sure for other people, like if you're like, oh, this place is not going to be acceptable, or it's just a lot of things that you have to think about. Restrooms are super important. If not anything else, make sure that restroom is accessible. And I'm not talking about, oh, it just has the accessible sign on it, but the bathroom is super small and I can't close the door, because I've had that before. Like, make sure that those bathrooms are accessible, because everybody should be able to go to the bathroom. Okay, like that shouldn't be said, but like make sure that not anything else. I know someone mentioned elevators. Yeah, I mean, if there's going to be an elevator, make sure they work. Don't have some old building because you want to be vintage or cool and none of this stuff works, and now nobody can go on the elevator for like safety reasons. So yeah, I would say that the biggest thing for me that affected me for the release party is because I couldn't be in my actual chair that I use on a regular basis. And so it was just limiting because like I had to rely on other people to do my basic needs that I tend to do I do myself. So you don't want to put someone in that position where they feel like, oh, now I'm super uncomfortable because like I have to rely on strangers, or like, ask someone to do something that they typically wouldn't do on a regular basis, because that can make that person feel like they're a burden when they're just trying to have a good time and celebrate, your music or, whatever you got going on. So that's what I would say in regards to my specific experience.
Does that answer your question, Apollo? Perfect. Alexi, you can ask a question.
Hey, everybody. So I know we only have a couple minutes. So Dominique, the Disability Ally NYC, and Georgina, if you have questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. But yeah, I wanted to ask, so Cassie, Sabeerah, and Jay, obviously, we've talked a lot about accessibility, and I think we have had a really insightful conversation about it. I think a lot of people's eyes who have not experienced this kind of stuff have just opened their eyes to a lot of these items. And even for folks that are on the spectrum have also opened their eyes to, or that are on the spectrum have also opened their eyes to just what other people are experiencing too. But I actually wanted to ask a question regarding your music careers, because obviously Cassie, Sabeerah, and Jay, you all have really amazing experiences. So I'm curious about, what is your absolute favorite project that you've worked on? And this could be in general, and it could be anything at all. It could be music industry related, just entertainment industry related, because Jay, I know you act too, but career-wise, what has been your favorite project that you've worked on? Because I know you all have had some really cool experiences.
I'd probably say the one I'm on right now, the one for Coachella. That's because Coachella was definitely like something that I like always dreamed about going to. So to like be able to like be there with like our community was like, it was more than a dream come true. That was
Sabeerah,
definitely like,
that's crazy. By the way, So crazy. Hold on. We do this thing here at Finesse Media when we're happy for the people in our community. Can everybody please unmute themselves really quickly and give Sabeerah a little woo woo.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, boy.
Thank y'all. It just, yeah, I definitely like that for sure was like a huge highlight because like, and then it was cool because not only like did I get to experience Coachella, but it was a shared experience for all of us. It was just, that part was like one of the most important. The cool part too was like we did a field trip. So I did this like credential field trip. Everybody had these like ADA, not just ADA passes, but these guest passes and artist passes. And I wanted to like show folks, I was like, yo, like, this is what that looks like. You know what I mean? Like, let's go backstage. Let's go to the artist lounge. Let's go kick it in this little YouTube backstage thing. And let's like mix and mingle, you know? Like, cause if that's where you see yourself, that's what we're gonna be. That was just, like my thought process. So yeah, that was highlight for sure.
Cool. Maybe Cassie?
Yeah, I think like still one of my favorite things that we've done so far is pre-COVID in the summer of 2019, we did an entirely online music festival before it really was a thing that people were doing, to the point where like when we were pitching this idea to people, we were like, this is so weird to explain, like, but we wanted everyone to be able to participate without having to get to a physical space. And we wanted to bring people together no matter where they lived. And so it's like funny now because it's like very easy to be like, oh yeah, like you want to do something on virtual, and it's like that's normal now. But we did it for the sake of accessibility back then, and we had no idea how it was going to go, and it went completely smoothly. So it's still like one of my favorite things we've done.
Cassie, you saw into the future. That's what it was. That's awesome. What about you, Jay?
I would definitely say when I got to do the Snapchat opportunity, that was really cool because they flew me out to the location, and I'd never been flown out. You know what I mean? I said, "Oh, okay, yeah. You know, what's the saying? I was like, okay." And like I brought my girlfriend, and she's also in a chair. Well, we have the same disability, so and my dad came, which was good because it was a terrible thing with the flight, like transportation chairs and all that. Anyway, but there's a lot of stuff happened with our chairs, and they got damaged, and that was the first time that I had actually ever had that happen to me. But overall, it ended up working out. Our stuff has gotten fixed since then. But the Snapchat was really cool because I just didn't even know that was possible to like have a company actually want to like fly me out. And I'm like, yo, are you sure? Like, I got a lot, that's gonna be needed. I got 3 people, my dad, like, and so, but it was cool. And so it definitely like showed me like, oh man, like this is possible. Like companies are actually willing to make that effort, you know what I mean, to like have me out there. Also doing Coca-Cola was really cool. And then lastly, I got to do this ad for the first Paralympic mobile game that they had. And I got to do like a TikTok ad for that. And so it went alongside of the Paralympics, and that was really, really dope to be able to be involved in that. So yeah, I know I kind of said more than one, but that's just what I wanted to say.
Jay, who are you? Do we have a superstar in the room, everybody?
No, definitely.
Seriously.
Everybody's a superstar.
He gets flued out.
Who are you?
He's the part of Fly Me Out Twitter.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Cool. Thank you for answering my question, y'all. I'm going to pass things back over to Sage. You all are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback off Alexi, all three of you are amazing and inspiring. And I'm so, so, so grateful that I could have hosted this conversation and that I got to talk to all three of you today. Before we end the Q&A session, we are going to, how can we follow and support you? What are your social medias? And yeah, just tell everybody where they can find you. Cassie, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so Half Access, we're just at Half Access, and I'll type it in the chat. We're just at Half Access on all social medias. And then I'm also at Wilson X Cassie on all social media. So yeah, would love to follow y'all. Thanks for those super good questions and conversation.
Nice. Sabeerah, you can go ahead.
Hey y'all. So my Instagram is my name, Sabeerah, Sabeerah. And my last name, Najee. And that's me on Instagram.
Jay, how about you?
Y'all can follow me, Mini Producer, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then I have a TikTok. It's Mini Producer Official, and then I have a website, miniproducer.com. And if you're an artist that's looking for beats, shameless plug, miniproducer.com/beats. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Yes, all the artists tap in and get some of Jay's beats, please. Yeah, so just thank you for that. That was such an amazing Q&A session. I really appreciate all three of you. So now we're going to go into our community engagement session. Before we go, we're going to jump in some breakout rooms, just to network and engage and make sure you guys are talking to each other, getting contacts with everyone. Do we have the breakout room set up, Danny?
Yeah, I'm gonna open them
really quickly. A couple people had sent some DMs asking if we could continue the Q&A. So we have 17 or so minutes left, about 10 more minutes before we start wrapping things up. I wanted to ask the audience what you all want to do. Because if you all would prefer to do the Q&A versus the community rooms, we can do that. So maybe drop it in the chat really quickly. If I see a bunch of people saying Q&A, if I see a bunch of people saying community session, then we can go based off of that.
Q&A is
looks like a lot of people are saying Q&A.
Q&A.
The people want to know.
They want to know. They have questions. Okay, well, yeah, we'll absolutely continue the Q&A till the end of the event. So put your hands back up if you have any more questions. So I can call on you and get your question.
Yeah. And for anyone who does want to do the community stuff too, like feel free to just reach out. I mean, Cassie, Jay, and Sabeerah, before I tell everybody to reach out to you individually, is it cool if I tell everybody to reach out to you individually? Okay, cool. Awesome. So I see a lot of Q&A people. So why don't we go ahead, if anyone has additional questions, just raise your hand. And Jen said, I'm gonna blow up your phone. Don't blow them up. Jay's like, don't reach out to me. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, if you guys do have some additional questions, go ahead and raise your hand. Shine, I see you, Sage. I'm gonna pass the mic back over to you and be quiet.
Yeah, go ahead, Shine. You can ask, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, thank you. I actually think that there was, that like before this there were a couple people in front of me. I don't remember their names, but I think maybe Dominique was in front of me. So if that person wants to ask their question, they can go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Hello everyone. I said it in the chat as we were wrapping up, but again, thank you for everyone sharing their experiences. I didn't really know what to expect coming into this event, and just hearing your stories, and yeah, I was just like, oh wow, that's just literally just the logistics of living your everyday life. And you guys are out here doing that thing. Like, respect to all of you guys. But Jay answered my question, but what is just one thing that brings you guys joy every day, whether it's directly connected to the work that you do or just living your everyday lives, is just what's something that brings you joy?
Cassie or Sabeerah, you guys can unmute yourselves and answer.
First off, adorable baby. Yes,
We're having
happy Mother's
breakfast.
Day. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Happy Mother's Day. I think for me, it's just connecting through music. That's like super awesome to me. Just the fact that, like, you know, whether it's like going to a show and you're like, you know, you don't know if you can go to a show and you don't know if you're gonna meet like your best friend for like years, because that literally happened to me. Like, you know what I mean? It's that kind of connection that you can only find with music, that I feel like that's what brings me the most joy. Whether it's on stage or off, but connecting with people for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
I think for me, it's like the continuous journey of like always finding your new favorite song. I while I am not like I in my spare time, just as a hobby, not as a big thing, like do enjoy writing music and stuff. And my favorite thing is actually when I come across songs where I'm like, I wish I wrote this song, but I'm glad you did. That's my favorite thing. So I just love always finding my next new favorite song.
What is your favorite song right now?
It's not even released yet. Harry Styles played new songs at Coachella, and so I'm waiting for his album to drop in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your question, Dominique. Did you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
No, I think that's it. Just again, thank you. Also, you wonderful host. So just thank you, everyone, and
thank you.
Keep doing your thing.
Amazing. Thank you for your question. Shine, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much. So I was curious, have you all been to like a recent event or some kind of experience that really pleasantly surprised you with how accessible it was? Like you might have, you know, had like been like, oh man, they're not going to think of these things, then you were pleasantly surprised?
You can go ahead, Sabeerah.
I would say Coachella for sure. I just didn't think it was financially feasible. I didn't think I would be able to have transportation there. Even though my grandma lives in Palm Desert, still didn't think I would be able to get there. There's a list of things that I thought Coachella was like. But for sure, I definitely like super pleasantly surprised with how accessible it was. I mean, even with like the dirt and everything like that, like they had carts for us. I mean, they did that for a day in Vegas as well, but like they like seriously had like accessible go karts for us. And I like wheelchair accessible go karts. You can just drive your chair up, bam, go anywhere around the venue. Ooh. Yeah, it's all through the back lot though. But you were able to do that. So I definitely say like Coachella surprised the heck out of me. Even the platforms, they had platforms where like they're all accessible, but like the actual ADA platforms not only had like, I guess these vibrating floors for folks with hearing impairments, but they had a captionist, they had like captions, they had a whole screen installed. So if you couldn't see that far, bam, like the screen was right there, captions on it. The interpreter screen was right there on the side. Like, it was crazy. It was so cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Cassie, how about you?
That's so cool to hear about. Yeah, for the record, I was not physically at Coachella. I just saw all the videos all over everywhere. You know, I think, I don't know, I haven't gotten to go to a lot of shows since COVID because I still don't feel safe, especially since all of the precautions were lifted. And so the fact that I was able to go to the Olivia Rodrigo show last month, like, was a very big deal for me because her show was basically one of the last shows at this venue that had any precautions because she required it for her whole tour. And so like just the fact that I could go like meant the world to me, because now I'm like, okay, I don't really know when I'm gonna get to go to a show again, unless hopefully this summer more outdoor shows. But just being able to experience any live music at all right now feels like such a treat.
Yeah. How about you, Jen?
I would say for me, the music video that I mentioned earlier, it was really cool just because they wanted to make it work to have me get there, which was really dope because like I said, I've just had a lot of times where people are like, oh well, guess it's just not gonna work. And it's like, dang. So that was just really cool that they wanted to like make it happen and we were able to get it done. And then like the thing I mentioned before with Snapchat, that was just really awesome because like I said, I never had that experience, and just everything that was like considered and taken into consideration. Like we had transportation to get us to the hotel and all that stuff. And that was just really cool, like for all those boxes to be checked off, and for the first time not have to think about all those things by myself and how that was gonna work. So yeah.
Amazing. Shine, did that answer your question?
Definitely. Thank you all. And it was great to hear some experiences that, give some hope. Thank you.
All right. Anya Coleman. Did I say that right? You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
You did say that right. Thank you. And I think PV might have put their hand up before me, so I'll let them go first.
Okay. PV, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey guys, thank you so much for doing this. And thank you, Anya, for being thoughtful and letting me go first. But I had a question because I had a little bit of trouble getting up this morning. It just takes a lot of work for me. Is this gonna exist somewhere on the internet where I can watch what I missed? Because I would love to be caught up on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe this is being live streamed on YouTube right now. So after the event, you can go to our YouTube channel and they should be dropping the YouTube channel link in the chat as well. So yeah, this will be on YouTube, I believe.
Okay, and what's the YouTube page?
It should be our name, Finessed Media.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, somebody will drop it in the chat though in a second.
Okay, cool. And then I just want to also echo what Sabeerah said about Coachella. Sabeerah, thank you so much for setting up, that accessibility plus thing. It was really cool to see, and I was there as well. And I was so surprised because I had been to Coachella before my accident, so I was really nervous about going back in a wheelchair. And it was literally the most fun Coachella that I had, even when I was able-bodied. I would say that this was way better because they just did such a great job of making sure that we had everything that we needed. It really felt like concierge service, even when I got cold up on the platforms, the people working the event went and got blankets and made sure that we were able to get around. So it's really exciting to see like what could happen in the future with festivals and stuff.
Thank you. Wow. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you had a great experience, PB. That makes me happy to hear. Did that answer your question? Do you have anything else to ask?
Nope, I'm all good. Thank you, guys.
Of course. Anya, you can go right ahead and ask your question.
Guys, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for everything you guys have been discussing today. It's been very informative. Took a ton of notes. Some context, I am working for a venue in Chicago, and we're currently working on improving our accessibility programs. So this was part of my research and hoping to improve and, just keep making it more welcoming for everybody. So my question was more so, what would be some next steps each of you would advise for either consulting to have someone come out and look at the venue, or even just like organizations or educational resources that I could look into further?
Cassie, you can start.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'd be happy to connect. I'll drop my email in the chat. And yeah, we have like because we on our website we have like a venue submission form, but then in addition to that, we have one that we send just directly to venues that walks through an even more detailed level of accessibility that like the average person going to a show is not gonna like pull out a tape measure and measure door widths. So it's like more detailed that we send just directly to venues. So that'll hopefully help start to walk through things and just think about so many layers of accessibility. So yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat.
Amazing. Sabeerah or Jay, do you guys have any advice for Anya moving forward?
I have a resource. My friend Austin, who's not only the director of ADA compliance, or ADA in general over at Goldenvoice, but he also has his own company called 1050 Entertainment. And basically his team are those folks that like take care of people at like every festival. And when I say like every, like from Goldenvoice to Live Nation to everything in between, you know what I mean? There's a show in Atlanta, like Afropunk, and there's like a platform. That's his team that's doing that. So I'll drop that in the chat for sure.
Thank you.
Jay, did you have anything to add?
No, I didn't have anything to add. Both of them are more well versed in that space. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Anya, for your question.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next question comes from 2 a.m. Ricky. You can unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hey, I hope everyone's doing great today. This has been an amazing panel. So I just want to say thank you to all of the panelists for sharing your experiences. I'm an artist and a songwriter, but I also work in PR, so I handle brand partnerships. I kind of want to just echo what the last person said on who I could reach out to or how, cause I work on a lot of the upcoming festivals or new music festivals and things of that's coming to Atlanta. Specifically, I'm working on one for Puma. So I definitely want to try to see how I can help, be a voice to try to make these new events and these new things that they're bringing to the city more accessible for everyone.
Absolutely. Jay, do you want to weigh in on Ricky's question?
Yeah, like I said, they're both so like when it comes to I don't really know as much around that, so I don't like to speak on things I don't know as much about. So they can answer those questions in relation to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Book Jay for a set. Book Jay for a beat set. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, period. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sabeerah.
I mean, I think the resource that Sabeerah already dropped, like, I think that like Austin and like 1050 and like their other branch, like Accessible Festivals, like they've got it down. Like they're just doing it. They're doing so many of the music festivals out there, and they know what they're doing. And yeah, that's less of Half Access's wheelhouse. So I always just, with anything festival related, I always just direct to Accessible Festivals because they've got it down.
Amazing. Did that help with your question, Ricky? I think maybe it did. Judy, this is going to be the last question of the event. Judy, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. Thank you again for having this panel. This has been so awesome. So I run a record label, but I mostly do DIY events. And so I don't have access to, like Live Nation's resources and things like that. Do y'all have any advice for DIY organizers / very low budget, trying to work with spaces that already exist, trying to scrabble things together, non-traditional venues, things like that. Ways to keep in mind making the events accessible, but also, balancing not being able to make a bunch of big changes at once. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, Cassie, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so that's really the types of venues I grew up around. So I know exactly what you mean. I think that's when like gathering information and presenting it is really the biggest thing, especially if you can do nothing else, like making sure people know what to expect. And also with that, having a point of contact for accessibility questions, both available either through phone or email, because the amount of venue websites I've seen that say, call us about like accommodations if you are deaf or hard of hearing. And I'm like, what? So anyway, and then I will say there's a lot of venues that have made changes that were basically the like equivalent of them just like putting tape down on the floor and like having somebody stand there and make sure that people stayed out of that area, or just like a barricade that they already had, just like putting it in a way where it creates an accessible area. Like there's a lot of things I've seen venues do with their existing resources that has made their spaces dramatically more accessible just because they're getting creative with what they've already got.
Absolutely. Sabeerah, did you have anything to add?
Pretty much to echo what Cassie was saying. Yeah, I've been to a lot of venues that like are older, but just like it could be the simplest thing that makes all the difference. And book us for shows. Like that's it. But yeah, definitely want to like include artists in the lineup. For sure. Yeah.
Amazing. And you heard Sabeerah, book them please, because they're amazing. And yeah, so guys, that wraps up our Q&A, and this also wraps up our event for today. Thank you so much, Cassie, Jay, and Sabeerah, for speaking to all of us and giving us so much insight into accessibility. And I know I've learned a lot, so I know everybody else learned a lot as well. And also the resources that have been dropped in the chat and everybody that is here, it's all in the contact sheet. So can somebody drop the contact sheet one more time in the chat? Make sure you're going to fill that out and networking with people, but also checking out the resources that were named in the event. And I'm going to pass it on to Kanesia for talking about future events. Go ahead, Kanesia.
Thank you. This was a wonderful event. This was so amazing. I loved learning from everyone here. We have some more exciting events coming up to keep having these types of amazing conversations. So next Saturday, we're going to be talking live events and touring, and that will be followed by Beat Making 101 on the 21st. Then we're going to close out May highlighting the creatives behind the scenes with Who Runs the Industry on the 28th. And now I will pass it to Kit Kat for any final announcements.
So thank you all one more time. Cassie, Jay, Sabeerah, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you talking about your experiences and providing your insights. Thank you all in the Finesse fam in the audience. Like, you chose to spend your Saturdays here. So thank you for choosing that. Woo woo. That's for you all, okay? Finally, can we unmute ourselves one more time? Give a woo woo to our panelists and to our lovely host, Sage.
Woo, woo, woo. Hey, Cassie and Sabeerah.
Let's go.
Amazing.
We love you.
Woo. All right. Well, thank you all again. Have a happy rest of your weekend. To our lovely mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Alexi, anything that you want to add?
Yes. Jay, Cassie.
The raffle.
What'd you say?
Also the raffle.
I have to do the randomization, so we'll do that after. But Cassie, Sabeerah, and Jay, y'all are awesome. And to everybody that joined us on this Saturday for this event, obviously, you know, we love you. We love our Finesse Media community. But everybody go follow Cassie, Sabeerah, and Jay, because not only are they doing great work in the music industry or in the disability space, but they're also doing great work in the music industry. And yes, please book Sabeerah and Jay. Cassie, I know you're not a performer, but book her for consultations. So pay our people. But we love you all. We're really, really grateful for you all to join us. And Jay, superstar, joining us again. But yeah, we're really, Jay says facts, baby. We're really grateful for all of you. And we just can't wait to see you all on our next event. Like Cassie said, we have more really great events coming up. So Cassie, Sabeerah, Jay, any last words from all of you before we hop off?
Trust the process, for sure. Keep going.
Cassie?
Just thank you all. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. This was great.
Jay, any last words?
Yes, I'm just really glad I got to be here and, you know, talk with everyone. Really grateful and, you know, wishing everyone the best of luck on their journeys and just keep up the great work.
Cool. All right, everybody. Happy Saturday. Oh, go ahead, Sabeerah.
I was just saying, I echo all of that. Thank y'all again. This is amazing. This is so great. Highlight of my.
Yeah.
Yay.
This is gonna, Sabeerah, the next time you get onto a panel and someone asks you what your favorite project is, you got to say Finesse Media's panel. Cool. All right, everybody. Happy Saturday. We love you and take care. Bye, y'all. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Take care.
Bye.